120th edition of the Roy's Boys podcast starts right now.
Carolina basketball family is the strongest there's ever been, there ever will be.
Nate Humphrey hands King Rice the ball. Pushes into Hubert Davis. 8 seconds. Davis trying to get free. Over to Fox. Fox, baseline. Up for the shot. Good! Off the glass! Oklahoma calls timeout, but the game is over! The game is over! Carolina has upset number 1 Oklahoma! And ready on his second attempt. That one is no good! They battle for it. Loose ball. Recovered Marvin. He scores!
With 20 seconds left to play. Goes back to Michael Jordan. Jumper from out on the left. Good! 63-62. 13, 12, 11. Georgetown with one timeout. Fred Brown looking. Oh, way to Worthy. Worthy 5. The Tar Heels are going to win the national championship.
Carolina with foul. He takes the timeout. They're out of timeout. Technical foul. Technical foul. Brown gets it into Williams. Here comes Williams front court. Williams on the drive. Gets it back out to Head. Long outside shot. Short rebounded. May. It's over. Carolina has won the national championship. And how about them Tar Heels? They are the national champions.
The Tar Heels are the national daggum champions.
You competed. And that's what it takes to win big-time games. You've got to compete. You do it with your brain, and you got to do it with your heart, too. And that's pretty doggone good.
From QCBroadcasting.com, this is the Roy's Boys podcast with your host, Josh Marlowe.
Hey everybody, welcome you into another edition of the Roy's Boys podcast. We are powered by Carolina Electrical Services. It is officially March, and Carolina has, since the change of the calendar and their play on the court has picked up, they pick up a massive 92-79. Anthony called it an upset win. I'm just going to call it a win at Syracuse on Saturday. Buddy, it feels good. We had the state podcast where we came back with some more energy, and we get to do it again following a great win at Syracuse over the weekend.
Well, we were coached up and told that our energy level was apparently not great. We had been walking through it. I think maybe we had spent a couple of games at Boston College. Some of the lesser environments had really gotten us down. It was a sleepy stretch of podcasts there. But now we are fully awake. And I called it an upset because, I mean, look, Syracuse came in 16-12, was a team that people still thought had NCAA tournament hopes. And it in most facets would be considered an upset loss. But this is Carolina. There are a lot of people that still thought Carolina could win this game, including myself. I picked them to win the game on the preview podcast. So, I guess technically it was an upset. That's why I phrased it that way. But, yeah, this was a game that Carolina, we thought, had a chance coming in because we loved the matchup of the Carolina offense versus the zone, something that even in a down year for them shooting-wise, they had success against in games like Yale and Miami, 2 games that they won. And once again, they showed that if you're going to play defense against Roy Williams, the zone is probably never the way to go, because if you do, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I think, we talked in the preview portion that Carolina's got to get the ball to the middle and attack from there. I felt confident with Garrison Brooks' growth as an offensive player that if the ball got there, and even if he had to settle for the foul line jump shot or beyond, we would be okay. And they were more than okay. 92 points, second most they've scored all year. They scored 40 or more in both halves. Which continued what they did against NC State on Tuesday night. So for the first time all year, Carolina has scored 40 or more in 4 consecutive halves. They shot 52% from the field. Quite simply, they looked like the team that we thought we would see all year long in the beginning of the year after this team looked went well in Maui, or not Maui, in the Battle for Atlanta. They were 2-1 in there. It looks like what we thought they could be, what they should be. Cole Anthony had maybe his best game as a Tar Heel outside of the Notre Dame game. We kind of said the same thing on Tuesday against State. He came back 25 points, 7 assists, looked like a point guard. I thought that he controlled the offense, made great passes in the zone, defensively was setting the tone for the team. And it's bumming that it's this late and it's all coming together, but there's reason to have optimism for this team to make some noise in the ACC tournament. Kind of like the State game, something that you mentioned was this game was very eerie to what we saw Tuesday night. Syracuse, good start. Carolina settled in, punched Syracuse with a 20-2 run, took control of the game, and from there on, Syracuse never really threatened. After a month of not being able to find ways to win games, Carolina has done that back-to-back games. So it's very encouraging that they at least figured out, albeit late in the year, they've learned how to win.
Well, I think that Carolina was so used to being the team on the other end of those runs where you would get hit in the mouth and just not respond. And now they're feeling what it's like to be the team that's doing that to somebody else, and then they like it. And, I'm kind of with you. I think it definitely stinks that it's this late in the year. But there is a case for this team to still make a run in the ACC tournament. And I think what we've seen over the last 2 games is what is going to give people some realistic hope that could happen. You look at the 3 guys that have been playing well. Garrison Brooks, 26 points, 14 rebounds in this game. He looks like the Garrison Brooks that we saw early in conference play. And that was something that we were hoping would come back around after he just really struggled from that Boston College game on. Once Cole Anthony returned, Garrison Brooks just got out of his groove completely. And part of that was because Cole Anthony, I think, felt like he was coming back to the same team that he was a part of early in the year, where he had to be the dominant guy when he really didn't have to be. Garrison Brooks was there. Garrison Brooks had evolved as an offensive player. But Cole Anthony really, I just don't think, understood that the way that we thought he would. Now he does. And the other thing that's happened is not only has Garrison Brooks settled back in, Christian Keeling has all of a sudden become the player that we thought he was going to be when he came to Carolina. And I told you this on the last podcast, and I'm going to say it again. I am so heartbroken that this kid does not have another year at Carolina, because right now he has turned into a guy that if he was on the team next year could be one of the 2 or 3 leading scorers on that team next year. His jump shot is starting to go. He, especially the other night against Syracuse, did a great job of finding those open spots in the zone and just made it easy on Cole Anthony to make passes, something that the rest of the guys on this team really just have not done for the entirety of the season. He's been doing that, and all of a sudden you see, especially in the last 2 games, it's all starting to come together on the offensive end for Carolina. And with that, you can see Cole Anthony starting to evolve as a player. We were told in the preseason this was the best point guard that Carolina's had maybe ever, because not only could he shoot the ball, not only was he considered the best rebounding point guard that Roy Williams has ever seen. That Roy said that himself. They told us in the preseason, George Karl specifically, that this guy was as close to Phil Ford as you get because he was just that good of a passer. And now we're finally starting to see that, and it's starting to, I think, open some eyes up. I don't know if Cole Anthony's going to come back next year, but I'm going to tell you, my opinion has changed over the last few games. If we can see this guy that we're seeing right now, if he wants to come back next year, I could get behind that. Whereas a couple of weeks ago, I would have told you I just don't think that what he's doing right now for this team is really going to help them going forward. But yeah, I think the case can be made for Carolina, and I think if they can find a way to win the final 2 games of the season, which will not be easy because you've got a Wake Forest team that's starting to build a little bit of confidence. I said that was one of the worst teams in ACC history. I may have been wrong on that because they have 2 huge wins back-to-back for them and really look like a much better team. And then, of course, you got Duke, which will not be easy considering it's in their place. I think if Carolina can find a way to somehow win both of those games, they are going to be one of those teams in a conference tournament that you just don't want to see, even though they are a double-digit seed. There'll be a couple other ones, a couple of teams in the Big Ten will probably be like that. But I think Carolina will be one of those teams that everybody's going to be talking about. Can they somehow make a run and find a way to claim that automatic bid?
Well, if there ever was a year that you would see that happen in the ACC tournament or any college basketball tournament, this year fits the mold with the amount of parity, the amount of chaos, the amount of uneasiness at the top we've seen, and we're going to see with conference tournaments starting just as soon as this week. And I'll touch on why Cole Anthony's play has evolved. Is because floor spacing has improved from Carolina. I was listening to the radio broadcast when we lost to Florida State in the postgame, and Jones Angel, the voice of the Tar Heels, asked Eric Montrose, what's wrong with Carolina's offense? And, I mean, as easy as it is for us to see it, he just broke it down a lot better. He was like, you've got so much conjunction in so tight of spaces. Carolina may make 3 passes, but the ball's only moving 5 feet total. The spacing at the time was a problem. And now you look at what they did against State, and the zone really helped them. The players are spaced out, which means the ball's got to move. And the ball is moving much better. It's better to move in the air via the dribbles. And so, and their passing it individually has gotten better. This wasn't a good passing team when conference play began. We saw that in person when we went to the Georgia Tech game, and it continued up until just a couple weeks ago. They've also gotten a lot stronger with the ball and a lot smarter with where they position the passes on the basketball court. And so that's why everything is turning around. This team had improved in the month of February. As I've just said over and over, they didn't get rewarded with the victory. And you made the comment, it's hard to come on here and be positive when they did so many things right at home against Duke, at home against Virginia, at home against Notre Dame. But when the shot goes in and you're now in the loss column, you can't come on here and be happy because you still didn't win the game. And as great as an individual improvement has been, and team improvement has been, it's about winning. And this team is now finally doing that. And I'm with you. I think depending on how they close next week, you could be a lot more confident in them making some noise in the ACC tournament because there haven't been many games they got blown out at. Louisville, you felt overmatched, but you didn't have Garrison Brooks, so that's probably an outlier.
Or Justin Pierce, who has been arguably better than Armando Bacot for you down the stretch, if we're being real.
You look at Florida State, you didn't make a field goal for 11 minutes, and we're still in the ballgame under 4-minute timeout. So you put that game on a neutral court, and that game's going to mean more to you than it'll ever mean to Florida State in this year. You can maybe see a different result. And then you look at the Wake Forest game. And that was probably more of just a hangover effect from the Duke loss, which not going to give you a pass. Understandable that you couldn't get up for that game because 48 hours ago you just blew the biggest game of the year. Outside of those games, Carolina was in every game and should have won most of those games, rightfully so. Didn't happen. But, they put themselves